All right, folks, directly behind me is the Durham prison. Earlier today, we were talking about what goes on with the judicial system and all along those lines. And actually, if you're quiet, you might even hear the basketball playing and all along those lines, because sometimes that's what happens at this particular facility. And I'm not that far from the Durham Bulls Stadium and all along those lines. So I'm actually on my way to an event, but I know earlier today we were talking about the judicial system and how the judicial system is doing. Adam Lambarello was talking about some of the FBI statistics and all along those lines, and we'll see if he joins us later on today and what his thoughts are in that space and along those lines. But definitely a lot of people are paying attention to the judicial system. There's even this notion of our certain politicians being targeted in the political landscape. I know Eric Adams was talking earlier today about mental health in New York, and how the New Yorkers are not doing that great in terms of sentencing and when it comes to mental health and all along those lines. So he had brought that up, and we talked about that a little bit on World Edition. And definitely, I remember Adam was having some ideas around that as well. So a lot of people are wondering about the judicial system and if it could be better organized and all along those lines. I know there have been a lot of conversations around the need for reform in the judicial system. There's been a lot of folks that have talked about the whole notion of what's going on with domestic violence and all along those lines. And I know that that's an issue that Kimberly Calhoun has done some research in and all in that space. So a lot of people are definitely wondering about the judicial system, and we got a couple of candidates that are involved in those kind of cases, and we'll see if that impacts whether they get picked for office or not. Matt Gaetz has been accused of a lot of things, as has I think Pete Hespeth and some others as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out and whether folks are actually able to see some changes in the judicial system and all along those lines. So like I said, I'm on my way to an event that's about history and the celebration of history and all along those lines, but it'll be quite fascinating to see what goes on. And one of Steve's favorite topics, I'm actually staring right at, because I know he's really big into infrastructure, and I'm seeing some road construction. So they're actually doing some work on the roads on one of the major thoroughfares. It looks like South Roxborough Street and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that a lot of people pay attention to in the world of politics, because a lot of politics is local politics. You have to be sure that your roads are correctly paved, to make sure that you have the correct sanitation, make sure that a lot of things are going on in that space and along those lines. So I'm going to bring in Kim, see what she's got to say about this, and we'll see if some of our other folks join us as well. But definitely, he says that the bus goes by and all along those lines. But Kim, I know a lot of times people are thinking about the judicial system and how the judicial system is impacting their lives. And like I said, in a lot of cities, Durham is no different. The prison is actually located in downtown. The courthouse and the prison are actually right next to each other. So I guess that's kind of convenient and everything. And just around the corner is the ballpark. I actually yesterday met a lady that's got a dog. I think the dog is named Zugo, and then another dog named Coco. But her and I think she said her husband lived in one of these high-rise apartments. And she said, yeah, we live right near the apartment. It's a high-rise apartment. I'm sure it's one of those expensive apartments. But just think that you live in a fancy apartment, and near you is the DPAC, is the ballpark, and of course you've also got near you two prisons, well, a prison and a courthouse as well. So definitely, I know that it happens in a number of places. I think Winston-Salem might have had the prison near its downtown area as well. I don't remember when Mom used to live there and everything, but I know a number of cities do and everything like that. So definitely, crime is something that people are concerned about. And like I said, I'm literally seeing one of those little small paving vehicles go by and everything. So I know infrastructure is something that Steve oftentimes talks about as well. So looks like there's a lot of things going on in downtown Durham, but I do know that criminal justice is something that even in your own life you have dealt with in terms of trying to have that in your family and all along those lines. And some of your inventions dealt with that as well. So don't know if you want to share some of that with our audience and all along those lines. But it's just fascinating what you can find in your city as you move around the city and all along those lines. So, like I said, looking forward to this event that I'm going to. But definitely, I'm seeing the people that are getting off work. It is 5 o'clock, so people are literally getting off work and heading off into their different destinations, probably back home, getting their food on. I was actually talking to a friend of mine that may be bringing a show to us around women and women issues and everything. And I know she was putting on her dinner on the plate and all along those lines. So she was actually getting prepared for dinner and all along those lines. But definitely, the smell of tar is definitely there. So they are fixing these roads for sure and all along those lines. So how are you doing today, Kim?
I'm doing great, Mark. Talking about prisons, I think one of the biggest problems with our reform today is the prison system. And it's only because I think that we have so many private prisons. It's not beneficial for these very wealthy people who own these large facilities to get people well and back out and reformed. It's more profitable for them to keep people flowing through prisons. So I think the first thing we need to do is probably get rid of privately held prisons if we want to correct the system just a little bit. I don't know how privately held prisons came into fruition. Maybe that's a great story to hear and learn and tell. But I believe that's probably one of our biggest problems in the reform system is because it's not profitable to reform people. It's more profitable to keep them in prison. So that's one problem. And I mean, the same goes with our healthcare system, and it has nothing to do with the doctors. It's everything to do with the insurance companies. And after traveling around the world, that's the biggest problem with our healthcare. Did you see Trump's latest appointee is Dr. Oz?
No,
He,
and what job is that for that he's doing? I know that he had appointed the gentleman, another Fox gentleman, to be the appointee and to run the Department of Transportation. So, what is Dr. Ross going to be doing? Is he going to be our Surgeon General?
everybody from Fox, right? No, you would think he's a Surgeon General, but he is Medicare or Medicaid services. So he'll be over the Medicare, Medicaid centers and services, and running that division. I didn't, I guess there is somebody who does that. I feel like there's a lot of positions just being created out of the blue. But we'll see. But yeah, Dr. Oz. I actually met him last year at the Super Bowl.
Oh
Um,
wow! And how was
quite
he
a
as a
popular, quite a popular
how was
guy.
he as a person? How was he as a person to meet? Was he a? Because I was actually talking to actually ironically I was talking to Shaquille after one of our shows, and I was telling him that my cousin Jonathan is had major surgery, but he is a GBI officer, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and he made it very clear at my aunt's party that as soon as he gets to retire in about another 2 years or so, he is going to get totally out of law enforcement and all along those lines because he is definitely very frustrated by law enforcement, frustrated by the nature of law enforcement, and I think he's just ready to retire in general. So I don't know that it's necessarily he's always frustrated about the job of law enforcement. He definitely enjoyed being in that field, but he's now ready to retire and to get ready to do something else. I asked him, I said, are you going to do something in the legal field, like maybe be a guard, maybe be something in the field of protection still, like law enforcement or a security guard or something like that? And Johnson was like, no, I'm getting totally out of the field. I am not doing anything that has to do with law whatsoever. I mean, he has also in the past, which was a job that I remember, and it's a job that I'm sure you probably had some experience in as well. But before he got into law enforcement, he did management for stores. And I remember that literally during the Thanksgiving and the Christmas time, that could be a pain in the neck because we know a lot of times people are in a rush. We know that next Friday will be Black Friday, and people are not always respectful of their service people and all along those lines. So I do remember that was the job that he had before he went into law enforcement. And I think he's been in law enforcement now for multiple decades. As I've said before, I joke that he loves to go to Costa Rica, and I think that there might be some secret family there that we don't know about, but that's just like a running joke in our family and everything. But definitely he has enjoyed the work because he's done what do you call it, guard work for everybody from presidents to celebrities. And he is definitely, I think he did work for Trump and Obama, but he's definitely done some of that kind of guard work. And I have another cousin that was retired now, and he's actually a second cousin, because I think it's my mom's first cousin, but he was in the Secret Service. So he was actually a Secret Service officer and all along those lines. So I do have some family members that are in the law enforcement field, just like I have some friends in that field here in Durham and in other cities as well. So I have a great deal of respect, but I also know that sometimes they can be that, what do they call it, the blue wall and everything like that. So they can sometimes be very defensive of their job and are concerned that people might be taking advantage of them as well. So what is your take on law enforcement? Because I know you got some folks in that endeavor as well.
Well, so I just don't think that law enforcement gets enough respect right now, but I think it's a lack of trust. I think people lack trust in law enforcement. A lot of law enforcement has been caught guilty of doing things. I mean, heck, there was a Border Patrol agent busted for sex trafficking, smuggling drugs over. I mean, they were talking about, the immigrants doing this, and it was actually the Border Patrol doing it. So I think our biggest problem with law enforcement is people lack trust. I think that we're going to have to establish trust with them. I like it when they go back to the communities like they have done here in Raleigh, where they're like doing, hey, come have coffee with us. Or, they'll be giving out cupcakes at one of the cupcake stores, or, but just interconnecting with the community. And I think more of that needs to happen. I don't think that there's enough of that. Mentorship programs when they get out and work with the young people, I think that's wonderful and beautiful. But I just think that we need to keep establishing trust. And, they need better resources. I think that's another problem. They don't get the funding they need to have the resources that they need. And that was part of my work, and what I was doing with them was providing them resources to help them do reform for some of the people that were coming out of prison or coming out of jail that, needed some reform and monitoring. And it's hard to monitor these people. High Point, North Carolina had turned domestic violence around from one of the highest rates in the country to one of the lowest rates in the world, purely because they got involved with the people. Like the police got one-on-one with the people everywhere in the small town. And I guess that's hard to do in a big city, but if you get enough and you divide them up into enough, community resources, I think it can happen where the people become more part of the community. So what are your thoughts on that, Mark, about the...
No, that makes sense. I'm definitely a big supporter of community policing. I was actually talking to some people about that earlier today, because I think that police need to be in their neighborhoods. And a lot of times police are not even in the neighborhoods that they are kind of like trying to protect and everything. So I'm a big fan of community policing and making sure that police actually have a vested interest in the neighborhoods that they are protecting and all along those lines. Because I definitely just think that you are more interested in being fair if you actually live in the community where you are protecting. So I'm a big fan of that. I also think that they need greater training, because I know that whether it's domestic violence or whether it's a number of other things, that oftentimes there is not enough work that is done in that space in terms of making sure that they are trained and know how to handle domestic violence situations or handle some of these kind of situations, even with child care and child affairs and all along those lines. So I do wish that police would get some stronger training in those fields. But I also have heard of people, I know here in this area, we've got some folks that are actually encouraged to go on the calls because they have better training than the police do. So definitely there are a couple of organizations that will go out to the call with the police because the police don't have that kind of training, and they will get the correct diagnosis if it's mental health or along those lines. Because I do think that, as we know, mental health is a major issue here in not just North Carolina, but around the country, and I would argue around the world and everything, because definitely a lot of folks are dealing with various mental health situations, and it's better if they are able to get the treatment that they need, and all along those lines. So I'm a big fan of mental health and all along those lines. Hey, I think I may have found a job for you and everything. I'm just gonna tease you and everything. I know that you're perfectly fine doing the job that you have, and doing a great job making the network go. But we know that Rick, when he is here, has said that he is a bartender, and I see that a club called The Bar literally has a big sign up here that I'm looking at, staring at, that says we need baristas, competitive pay, $15 an hour, shifts from 6:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. So you might be there for a while, because that's a long day if it's 6:30 a.m.
That's a long day. Barista is quite a talent. It takes a lot to learn how to do that fancy coffee. We got Nick in the house all the way from Spain. Ooh, hi Nick. Whoa, Nick, where
we
are
need to
you?
bring
I'm in Washington, D.C.
What?
Nick. Do we see you?
What?
I see that he's in there, but I don't see him. Where's Nick
you
hiding
there,
at?
So you're back in Washington?
No, I'm not.
There's Nick.
I'm Barcelona.
Great
my
picture.
my background is D.C. And I
You
do have a
know,
couple.
I met with some young people today, young professionals who are actually kind of got a job. Probably not, nothing pays well nowadays, but they work, and some work several jobs. But they're fed up with America, and some of them are talking about. They're even asking me, how do we leave the country and get citizenship somewhere else? So Nick, maybe we can do a show on that. But they're done. They go, you know what? We have no future here, none. And they want to take their future skills to other countries.
A lot of talk, but no action.
No,
So they're ready to move to another country altogether and everything.
They will. I think they will go.
Okay. Right.
They just need to know how.
But see, the real problem is, just like the people that come to Spain, they think there are jobs here.
Oh, Nick must be at someplace. Hey, one of the things that's been talked about a lot, and as you can tell, I'm out and about and everything like that. But one of the things that I'm actually walking by another place that is a popular topic, and I know you've been talking about it a lot, Kim, and everything. But I just walked by the Venable, and there's another apartment complex. So a lot of people are talking about the price of housing here. I'm even near the Bull House and everything like that. So how did your thoughts around some of the pricing that is going on? Because even here, there's a lot of things that are in that $1,500 to $2,000 range. But definitely, if you're in New York, that's nothing. But if you're in Durham, that might be considered something. So what's your take on the pricing situation with housing? Because like I mentioned, there's a number of people that are wondering about the mental health of our folks that are homeless, but also can they even afford a decent house? Because like I said, I literally am in between the Venable and the Bull House, which are two apartment complexes that I know are probably in that $1,500 to $2,500 range, if I'm remembering correctly, and all along those lines. So what's y'all's to take on housing as it is?
It's too expensive. I mean, the thing is, I remember when I rented my first apartment, that goes back 40 years ago, my rent, Mark, was $196 a month. That is an American price. Not $1,000, not $5,000, $196 a month. Okay, so that's American price. Problem is that you can't, housing in America is unaffordable. And the thing is, neither party's really addressing it, because frankly, neither party gives a rat's rear. In Spain, the housing is a lot cheaper, but in certain parts, like where I'm in Barcelona, it's not that cheap. But once you leave the city and you go up to Zaragoza, you go out into the countryside, it drops back to really decent prices for decent houses. But these people say, hey, I'm going to go move to Spain or another country. The problem is there are no jobs here. Unemployment's like 40% of young people. They just don't have jobs. They go, oh, and then I'll get a job like Cavalier. I'll just move to another country, get a job. No, you move to the country and you'll be unemployed. And frankly, they'll kick you out because they know that you're going to try to apply and there's no visa for you because there's no jobs for you. So the only people who move to countries like this are ones that are in the high-tech area that have jobs overseas, like IBM, for example. If you work for IBM and they allow you to work here, then you should move here. If you have a high-tech job that can be done on the internet. But if you're saying, hey, I'm going to become a mechanic or I'm going to even work at a restaurant here, forget it. It just, as they say in Pawn Stars, it's going to happen. So you're going to have to suffer through the U.S. or countries that are that basically have jobs. So it's not just housing; it's jobs also. And a lot of these countries,
Well,
they
you
just don't have jobs for
gonna
these
get a
citizens.
kick out of this. You know how most people want to get married to someone in the U.S. to come and become a citizen here. There are people actually looking for people to get married in other countries to leave the U.S.
Yeah.
now.
Well, yeah, the thing is, the immigration issue is not being properly addressed.
Love it.
I really do propose that you fine the people. You don't kick them out of the country. You fine them 10 grand. Okay. Let me tell you something. If they've been here for a while, they'll come up with the 10,000. First, the United States needs the 10,000. The U.S. is bloody broke. Okay. So 10,000 per illegal immigrant, cash flow coming in is good. Spending money to deport somebody is bad. You lose money. So if they pay a $10,000 fine, slap them on the wrist, 10 grand, then you give them a path to citizenship. If they don't pay the 10 grand, you put them in a vehicle, like if it's a bus, plane, train, automobile, and you send their butts to another country. We don't need them. So for me, that is a perfectly valid solution to immigration policy. Keep it simple, stupid. Do not make this more complex than it has to be. So if Sasha goes, oh, but I've been in the United States for years, I want to become a citizen, I'll say, where's your 10 grand? Oh, I don't have 10 grand. Stay in Canada. Okay. Or if you're in the United States, we're going to kick you out. Real simple. And don't, like I said, don't make this any more complex than it has to be. I hope that somewhere along the lines they'll get that position. I mean, 10 grand is chump change for somebody who's been working here for a long time who really wants to be here. And if they can't come up with it, then yes, they need to be deported. I mean, really, that would. And even though they're here legally, or at least they're here illegally, but they're working jobs, they haven't committed any crimes, blah blah blah. 10 grand, you're in. That's what I would do.
I don't
Yeah.
understand though what makes a difference between two people. So somebody paid $10,000 to his lawyer. So his lawyer got plus $10,000. He's got minus $10,000, and the other guy didn't pay $10,000. So his lawyer is now out of $10,000, and he keeps $10,000. So actually, the guy who keeps $10,000, in my opinion, more valuable asset for the United States than one who actually had to pay $10,000 his lawyer. So the first guy will most likely faster will buy a car, maybe real estate, find a good job, and get ahead in his life than one sucker who paid $10,000. So his lawyer will get ahead in his life and will go to Aruba for vacation.
Yeah,
So
you want to keep it from Sasha, you want to keep it away from the lawyers. You want to keep it away from the cowboys who bring people across the border. You want to deal one-on-one with the U.S. government. And here's the deal. You fill
No,
out
I
the
think
application, we do a background check. You pay 10 grand, and even though you came here illegally, that was your fine for being here illegally. Then you're given a visa and a path to citizenship. If you
Well, let's
complain at
uh,
all, and you don't want to pay the 10 grand or you complain at all, then we put you on a bus and we send you back.
it could be so. I mean, I don't have equity in this game.
Yeah, I mean, keep the immigration simple. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. The problem with the U.S. government, right there, it's extremely complex and crazy. It reminds me of my homeowners association. I don't believe, but now I do believe, there are people in this country that love rules. They can't create enough rules. One guy worked in our homeowners association board. He wanted a rule as to how big your grass could grow, what type of shirt you can wear, what type of glasses you can have, what type of trees you can grow. I mean, everything had to have a rule. And there are people like that in the United States. They have to have zillions and zillions. You don't need these rules. Okay. And so when I left Briar Creek, I moved into a community that had all $1 million homes. All $1 million homes. I asked them, do you guys have a homeowners association here? No. How can you live without all the rules? Everybody kept their homes up. We didn't need a homeowners association. There was no homeowners dues. We didn't have people running around our community telling us how big you could grow the grass. But I'll tell you one thing they all had in common. They all had $1 million homes, and they knew how to behave. So really what the U.S. needs to do is to move to that type of system and get away from this rules-based system which exists over there in Washington, D.C. And I think where you're gonna see a movement toward that in the next 4 years, and they're going to start getting rid of that. So immigration, keep it simple, stupid. 10 grand you're in, no 10 grand you're out, and we need the money because Joe Biden, as you well know, just blew another $4 billion. What did he do? He just did that yesterday. He gave the World Bank $4 billion so they can give it to poor countries. Now wait a minute. The United States is broke, 36 trillion in the hole. You got kids that Kim says they want to leave the country because they can't make rent here. And Joe Biden decides in his wisdom he's going to give away $4 billion. Why didn't he give away $4 billion to us rather than poor countries around the world? You know, and this thing that gripes me, and that's the reason he and Kamala Harris did not win the election. Didn't gripe me personally. I left and went to Spain because I couldn't stand either candidate. It griped a lot of people in the United States. So
I mean, I want to say it's nothing like the $953 billion business loans that Trump handed out with PPP loans that didn't get used appropriately, and people got them that didn't need them.
Biden was administering.
Trump did it too. Trump did it first.
They both did it. I mean, the thing is, and there
I
is
don't know of Biden's PPP loans. I saw Trump's.
he did the forgiveness, but the thing is, you're right on one thing. There's too much government welfare out there, and you know who's a big beneficiary is Elon Musk. This is the thing that shocks me.
Oh, well, tell me about it. Do you know how much money he got in grant money?
$20 billion worth of government contracts. Kim, Elon Musk gets $20 billion in government.
You know what scares me is he's going to be head of a regulatory standards in technology, and he wants to deregulate technology. So that's kind of like, especially for space. And I'm like, oh, so we're going to do like we did that submarine, right? Deregulate technology into space. So we're going to be having submarine like what we had 2 years ago that just exploded underneath it. I mean, deregulating technology is wrong. It's the reason why we have so many problems right now. But the other reason why I'm not too thrilled about Elon being where he's at is he was under investigation. And now he's head of the division that he was under investigation of. And I just don't know how our country can allow that. How can that happen, Nick?
It's the wave of the future. It's the current way. But also
it's called buy your way up.
Well, no, but also you got to look at the quote investigations that go out there. That's spurned by a government that has way too many rules. Even when David Walker was going over it, well, he can only do this for 60 days. I mean, the 60-day rule. Who even knows about the 60-day rule that it can work for the government? I mean, this is what gripes everybody. And then Elizabeth Warren. They can't become part. This is Elizabeth Warren. She's a U.S. senator. They can't become a appointee because they didn't sign the ethics thing, the ethics law. What ethics law? The ethics law that I wrote. Okay, wait a minute, Elizabeth Warren. First of all, there's nothing in the Constitution that requires anybody to sign an ethics law or ethics agreement with you or the Senate or anybody else. If you drafted such a law during the Biden administration, which it sounds like you did, and when you controlled Congress and the Senate, you got it passed, doesn't mean it is valid. But this is some of the garbage, and the reason your Democratic Party is not controlling anything right now, because they pass stuff like that. Can you imagine, if you're going to be president of the United States, you have to sign an agreement that you're going to be a Christian. Would that be valid? No. And so would Elizabeth Warren's ethics thing be valid? Absolutely not. So what we're going to do is we're going to see the court strike that down. In the meantime, I'm going to strike my way to another appointment. So I'm going to leave you guys till my appointment's done. Bye-bye.
Well, What do you think, Sasha?
What I think is, uh, you see, right now, mm, the Republicans have their honeymoon right now. And on your honeymoon, you're doing some weird things as long as you enjoy it. And it seems to me that eventually, they will start eating each other. And I think that Trump, he's making some absolutely ridiculous appointments for people just to stir things up and make some people will support his nominations regardless. Some other people will fight their nominations. I'm talking about just Republicans. So he will see, okay, so these people are loyal to me. Okay, I will try to protect them and move them up. The other people, I will try to destroy them and sue them and do whatever other things I can do against them. And it will. Do you think this honeymoon between Trump and Musk will last longer than 2, maximum 3 months? Of course not. They will eat each other and hate each other, and you will see that Trump will try to get distance from Musk because you can't have two kings, two presidents in the same place at the same time. There is only one president, there is only one king. Right now, Musk is trying to advance his interest and he's trying to be close to Trump and he's dancing around him and so on. But we'll see how it will all develop. I think in 2 years they will lose the midterm election, probably, most likely, and in 4 years' time, unless Trump will change the laws, the constitution, and everything else, so there will be maybe no more elections. So then Trump will remain president until his death, and that's what's going to happen. But we'll see.
Until death do we part. Is that the way it's going to be?
Yeah, something like this. Absolutely.
Democrats are having a honeymoon and we can't get rid of Trump until death do we part. This is sounding very matrimony here.
I think Trump has, controlling Senate and House and judiciary. I really don't understand what's on his way to change the constitution. That there is no more president elections. Okay, there could be House election, Senate, so, but no president. President is until he's dying. So therefore, if you elect next president J.D. Vance, he'll be president for the next 50-some years until he'll die. So that's probably what's going to happen, most likely.
Yeah,
I don't know why he wouldn't do it. What would prevent him doing that?
I don't know. JD Vance will probably run, but I just don't think that he is a good candidate. He flip-flops too much. His wife's got to run behind him and explain what he really meant to say. What kind of leader is that to begin with? If you've got to have someone explaining behind you all the time. I just don't think he's got the character that it takes to run this country. He might prove me wrong, but he wasn't that great of a military person. He was a military person, and I'm not going to put him down for it. But he put everybody else down who put in 20 plus years, saying, oh, they didn't do everything they said they did. How does he know? Just because a few people say that they have evidence of something else, they don't know. They weren't there. And so I think that his character traits just don't blend with good leadership. And I believe that, we will run our course with Trump. I think the same thing that happened last time will happen again. I think people will see that he was the reason why our economy struggled these last 4 years, because people don't understand a big mess like what he created and caused takes years to clean up. It's kind of like a really messy diaper, you know, you just, and then you just, it takes a lot to clean up, you know, it's not that easy. And I just think that people didn't read the tax laws that he created that we had to live with for 8 years. I spoke with my financial advisor, and we had this wonderful meeting. You know, I always look out personally, kind of like you do. I look out for my own best interest and try
Yep.
not to worry about the politics, but I do look at where they are and how I should invest and what I need to
Yes.
do. Yeah, you have to, right? So we said
Absolutely.
we would have a big meeting after the election, and we did. And you know, he's not too happy about the results, though I thought he would be. He I think it's because of me feeding information about that tax law. Nobody really knew about it. You know, you would think that a lot of people would know and understand about the 40% tax law, especially if they're in finances. But if you trade all the time and you're not doing, you can't know it all. But I don't think a lot of people really realize how bad that hurt their pocketbook, and it wasn't Biden's administration. And I think that they're going to be surprised because that tax law we talked about it is going to continue. So if that continues, what does that mean for people? And that means that, you know, if you watch the conference, unfortunately, we hate to do this to the middle class, but unfortunately, we're going to have to raise the taxes on them to cover the deficit. And that's the end result of maintaining the individual 40% tax cut, which everybody argued with me. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That was for corporation. Well, Trump was really smart. He did 40% a lot. So it was a smokescreen. So they did do a 40% for corporation, but they also did a 40% for individuals earning over $400,000. The other part was the international trade tax cuts, which were a little deep for me to understand. I watched the conference on that a couple of times, and you know, I have to admit it was just a little complicated. But those tax cuts helped a lot of people who are from, you know, trade in internationally and make it very beneficial for them as well. And everyone says, oh, you want to attract that, but not at the expense of hardworking people as it is. And they can't afford houses. Nobody's getting a forever home anymore. And Elon Trump has invested in these pop-up homes that cost $10,000. He'll sell them for $50,000. But you can buy them right now for $10,000, 3 bedrooms. But you know, I foresee a crash. I don't know about you, but I foresee a stock market crash of some kind, and people are going to struggle for at least 2 years.
It's hard to say. Yeah, there could be a crash. Just at the moment, you know, like you live on a stock trading business. You live day by day, news by news, week by week, and there are all kinds of news announcements, the PPI, CPI, then this like houses is, I think tomorrow or Wednesday, housing starts, no, Wednesday, Wednesday or Thursday, sorry, I mixed up. And so you evaluate all this news, they affect market one way or another, a little bit here, a little bit there. So there must be something that would crash, some kind of really, really negative news. There was an interesting day in the morning. I turned up CNBC, and I can see that all market is down. And there is a line that you read, the moving line, and it says stock market is down because investors are concerned about Ukrainian-Russian war. Oh my God, that news could never make anything, even on our channels here at Pod TV's. Okay, on my program, of course, we discuss a lot of it, but otherwise, it's kind of something that nobody really cares really a lot about it. But how? What is that, Sasha? How can?
Yeah, we got a viewer. I've been sending out invites to people to watch our show. Sasha, How can we invest to protect ourselves if the market crashes? Do you discuss this on your show? I try to tell people about the other shows that are
Yeah.
out there.
Well, I have my show tomorrow, by the way. Tomorrow at 1
Yes.
o'clock. So it's coming. You know what? It's difficult to discuss crashes. I'll tell you what. I have a big investment in NVIDIA, for example. NVIDIA is almost at all-time high. It's approaching there. It's almost 147 close today. 150 is resistance that NVIDIA couldn't cross. So it's coming to 149.50. Then it goes back down. Okay, now it's for 147. Tomorrow, after market closes, is a news release, a quarterly report. So, how you can advise people what to do with NVIDIA? It is impossible, because I've looked at so many so-called experts. Some of them believe that NVIDIA will crash because it's running ahead of itself, and the valuation is ridiculous, or so on. But today I read an expert I know, and read him sometimes. He's writing for Motley Fool publication, and he says that NVIDIA is the most how did he describe it? It's the most underappreciated, undervalued asset there is on the market. So how can be the stock running ahead of itself and horrible valuation? And then there is an expert that I know who he is, and he's saying it's the most undervalued asset. So then what do? You then run and buy NVIDIA as much as you can, or you sell everything because the other guy says that it's overvalued and running ahead of itself. It's impossible. The only thing is, I have a few friends and associates who have positions in NVIDIA, and they concerned, they're reading that it's overvalued, it's gonna crash, and it's this and that. And I'm saying, look, if you, let's see, you're analyst and you believe that it's overvalued, okay, so you sold your position or half your position and so on. But they're going much farther than that. You are advising people to what to do and particularly sell. Okay, if you sell yourself, okay, you're trying to protect your account, makes sense. Why are you telling that to other people to do so? Are you being paid for doing that? That's a different story. So you have to disclose that you are being paid for information that you're supplying and so on. So then people will make sense. If they don't disclose, so that means that either they are short sellers and they're trying to influence people to sell stocks so it will indeed go down, or maybe they are being hired by a group of short sellers trying to write something negative about stock or the market, so people will run away from NVIDIA stock, it will go down or so on. And if neither of it is true, then he is useful idiot. That's all. So that always makes sense.
It's interesting to me, also just all the different appointments he's making and how they will influence what happens in our country. Like I was telling Nick, I was speaking with some younger people today, professional people, but they're still struggling in this economy that we have. And they're talking about just packing up and leaving. They know I travel a lot and they travel some, and they asked, what does it take to become a citizen in another country? That's how bad it is. The youth in this country don't even want to bring a future into this country. And it's just concerning me because when you do that to people, oh, hi, Terry. So do you think Trump will get rid of Powell, the head of Federal Reserve?
Powell announced that he wants to stay for the remaining of his term, which is another year or so.
Okay.
So the Trump will start firing him. It will take about several months to do so. So maybe he will just let him run his course and then he'll appoint somebody else.
I don't
That's
think Powell did us any favors. He's been quite irritating because, they say, oh, he can't control the interest rates, but then he turned around and he said, I'll cause the interest rates, or I'll adjust the interest rates to be low one time before the end of the year. And he did. It was less than 4 hours in one day. And my sister and I happened to catch it for a refinance that I wanted to do, but it was one day only. But if he's got that much power, why didn't he do it to help people this whole time?
Now, what's interesting is that if you would lower interest rates drastically, let's say a point or a point and a half even,
This was a
that
point.
would make US dollar would go down, of course, against
Yep.
other assets. So, so US products would become more competitive on the world market. Now, even more importantly, the $1 trillion a year to service the debt, that would be halved. It would be only $500 billion required to service the debt. So it's, in my opinion, it's a win-win situation, and I don't understand why Powell is not doing that. But, well, he must have some reasons, of course, not doing
Well, I'm sure that they have a reason for what they're doing. I mean, Nick and I met with them for a week or a couple of days and interviewed many of the VPs, and I learned a lot, but I don't think I learned enough, because what's going on is just very disturbing for the younger people. They have no future here. None whatsoever. I learned it's better to go to Albania right now. If you want to buy a house in Albania and you get a loan, it's interest free for the first 3 years. Interest free for the first 3 years. It's not interest bearing, or and when you do get it, they want to help. They want people to build and grow. And Greece, is struggling, but they're paying off their debt. They're doing their due diligence. And so, to see other countries, they live healthier, they encourage healthier lifestyles. I'm encouraging kids to leave now. I'm like, why stay here? There's no future for people who want a future in America. I just don't feel it. And when they say make America great again, when did it get bad? Ask yourself, when did it get bad? It got bad during Trump, actually. Everybody blames Bush, but I personally think it became extremely bad during Trump. And that's just my personal view. But I don't think it's make America great again. I think that it's all going to be river up economics. They're going to fill their pockets and make themselves royalty. The one person that's interested me the most in all of this, who's been the most quiet, is Richard Branson. Not a peep out of him. One of the richest men in the world, owns a space company and doesn't get government grants like Elon did, but owns a pretty prominent space company. But he's been very quiet. I'm curious what's going on there.
Well, he's in position that, okay, indeed, he's very wealthy. He doesn't want, for obvious reasons, to compete with Musk, because he doesn't have this billions of dollars in government grants. So he understands that deep inside, Musk will prevail. But what Musk is trying to do? Most of his projects is to send people on Mars. And the reason why he wants to send people on Mars is to avoid a nuclear full-scale war against Russia or China or both, or so on.
You're right about that.
My opinion, though, is, Sasha, what time is your show tomorrow? At 1 o'clock.
Okay, 1 o'clock, everyone, and it's really good. He's been doing this for years. Not just the show. He's been trading a lot longer, so it's definitely fun to watch. And you'll learn something. I've had other friends tell me they've learned. So, okay, so let's talk about Putin and the war, and how do you think the nominated cabinet that Trump is pulling together, how do you think that's going to influence any change in the war? I just don't. He said he was going to go stop the war like that the minute he was elected. I haven't
No,
seen that
no,
happen.
no, 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 no. There is no chance. It's not going to happen 100%. Even if Musk will pay Ukraine $100 billion, it's not going to change anything. Uh, because Ukraine is very much loves its freedom, and it will never allow a foreign power,
Yeah.
especially Russia, to conduct the way they're doing now. They're killing civilians every day. They're sending 120 missiles, and not to fight the war, but just kill civilians and destroy infrastructure. It's I think people here ignorant about that. They say, okay, there's some kind of conflict, so this side is attacking that side, so they're killing each other. Let's make a peace. It's not going to work that way.
No,
What's happening right now? European countries, specifically, it's UK, France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Baltic states. They are preparing a new coalition of countries to help Ukraine. Because they understand if Putin will prevail, the next targets will be Baltic states, Poland, Germany, and so on. So they understand how serious the situation is. They understand that Trump doesn't care except himself. So he needs to extract something for himself in this conflict. If he's unable to do that, he will say, you know what, keep fighting, kill each other, I'm out of it. But that's okay. That's okay. European countries have enough financial power, much more than the United States, and they have very solid weapon systems. Not all that the United States has, but most of it they do. So they will be able to continue to supply Ukraine even after U.S. will get out of the regulated conflict. Furthermore, Russia is exhausted by this war economically, militarily, and from all points of view. They are running out of weapons. Embargoes on all kinds are still there. They're now bringing North Korean people to this meat grinders. So this North Koreans will be first who will be completely messed up and get liquidated. And even Russians themselves, they are laughing at the North Korean fighters and say, okay, let them go to the front lines and let's get rid of them as fast as possible. So they're not eating a lot. I mean, okay, they are dog eaters. Unlike people in Springfield, Ohio, the North Koreans are dog eaters. But
maybe Trump and Vance got that confused.
there are not too many dogs in the Kursk region in Russia. I never heard that there are a lot of dogs around. Bro, so they're starving now. If there are no dogs, how's they going to survive? So they will be liquidated as soon as possible. So they don't have to worry about the dogs and these North Korean soldiers. So on around March, you see, Russian soldiers, they're now they're almost like in cosmos. They went as far as they could. They don't have any more power to continue going ahead. They cannot go backward again because they will be all killed by Russians by deserting the front lines. So they have to stay where they are, and it will take just a few weeks until there will be a meat grinder that will completely dislocate and liquidate them and so on. And by March of 2025, Ukrainians are preparing a huge attack against Russian territory. It's nothing to do with Ukraine now. Now Russia is a target. To win this war, you have to go to Russian territory and take Kremlin and liquidate Putin. That's what you have to do. There is no other way to win this war. So they're preparing that. They're preparing the nuclear weapons that Ukraine once had, but they, according to Budapest Memorandum, they gave it all to Russia. And UK and US and Russia guaranteed that Ukraine will be always defended and will keep this territory intact and so on. So Russia was the one who mercilessly ignored and violated this Budapest Memorandum, and UK and US stay aside and say, well, what can we do? Are we going to fight Russia nuclear war because of this Crimea and a couple of places in Donbass? Of course not. So Ukraine learned something from it. So now, once it will have a nuclear arms, Russia will be keep quiet. They will be a wonderful neighbor. They will get in the morning, get a call to Ukraine and ask how my Ukrainian friends are doing today. Do you need anything for us to do? And that's how it's going to work out. Only nuclear arms. There is nothing else Ukraine can do to defeat Russian foe.
Right. I mean, I think that, you know, maybe it will just get another leader. You know, I think that would be a good thing. The fall of the Russian leader, and it would go into hands of someone who can work with other countries. But I think that they have collaborated so strong with BRICS, and that is very concerning to me, is the growth of BRICS with Putin in charge. I mean, do you see this as a problem?
Not in near future because, well, they've been in existence now for a number of years, I think 15 years or so. And what they've done in 15 years, where they are.
Right.
You don't have, it was a noise that they will create their own currency, that they will trade among each other, they will try to get rid of US dollar and all this wonderful stuff. Nothing of that happened at all. So I would ignore that as a noise, really.
So I'm looking at another cabinet appointee from Trump, Lee Zeldin, who also has a long list of criminal activities and connections, and a long list of people that are going to prison, have been going to prison, have been in prison, that he's been associated with, and investigations on. So what is up with the cabinet appointees that Trump has made that have sexual misconduct, criminal activities? I mean, the list of what goes with Lee is very scary. And he's appointed him head of the EPA. I guess you don't have to be a decent person to be head of the EPA. But, you know, the people that he has been tied with and tied to throughout his career have been sentenced to, you know, jail for fraud, wire fraud, just, you know, the list is scary. Are we going to have a cabinet of criminals?
You know what? Criminals are attracting criminals. So if criminals in chief is assembling the cabinet, and you know, Trump is positioning himself as a distractor. He's a distracted person. So he is attracting destructive people that can distract before they will do something. First, they have to distract whatever is there, and only then they will try maybe to build something else or whatever. But I'll tell you that the most horrible nomination, it's Tulsi Gabbard as the head of United, CIA and FBI and all those agencies.
Yeah.
She's been, for the last 2 years, she's been almost every day a regular on Russian TV. And in Russia, they call her our Tulsi or our girl. That's her name in Russia. And she's there almost regularly, almost every day. So how can you appoint such a person in your cabinet in one very important position? To me, it's much more ridiculous than Trump himself. And okay, Trump, okay. So American people, they love it's criminal, and they appointed him a president. Okay, that's fine. That's what American people want. That's it. But the worst thing is that criminal elect, he is now appointing criminal cabinet all over the place. So this is absolutely ridiculous. But again, as I said, that's what's going to happen in the next at least 2 years, maybe a little 4.
Right.
But at least 2 years. There's nothing you can do about it. If they have House, Senate, Judiciary, presidency, I don't know what else he needs. Actually, I don't understand why on January 21st he is not going to completely destroy the Constitution, appoint himself as a Tsar. And what's on its way? He has complete immunity according to Supreme Court, right? So
Right.
he's saying now there is no more Constitution. That's unconstitutional, right?
Yeah.
But he's immune. So at least for 4 years, he is right. There is no Constitution. But
wouldn't-
he may say it, if there is no Constitution, where 4 years coming from? There is no
I
more
have
4
no
years.
idea. I have
Okay.
no idea. And we're at the top of the hour. And unfortunately, I'm just curious
Okay.
when he's going to nominate Diddy for something, before he goes to prison. But everyone, have a good Tuesday. We'll see you Thursday. But don't forget to watch Sasha's show. Wednesday, I'm going to play Modern Investing for you so you recognize it at 1 p.m. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.